sisters, welcome back to HB Ministries, a ministry for you to believe, behold, and become all God's created you to be in whatever season of life. We are now in our August devotionals, but of course, whenever you listen to this, it'll be a blessing for you. I will tell you everything that you can do to navigate, whether you are following me right now live in the month of August 2020, or you watch this months and months, or even perhaps a year later. You will be able to catch on, I promise you. Number one, the PDF for what I'm going to share and the live session for this whole week. Of course, we're entering into the second week of August, but again, regardless of when you are hearing this, the PDF questionnaire is located right below this video, and so is the session 2 video that is going to kind of ground us for this whole week's study. Now, the questions, of course, mine are all very, very filled in, but you're going to get the same piece of paper. The same handout is located right below the video. What I want you to do is just utilize all of my lessons this week where I come to you right here on YouTube. Plus, I have a pre-filmed session 2 lesson on Nehemiah ready for you. So that's kind of like the pre-filmed, it's the formal one that I need you to watch to help you follow along on your handout, and also all the extras that I'm going to bring this week, just like we did in week 1. So I'm going to kind of kick off today with the verse that you'll find on your calendar. Now, some of you are going, okay, what calendar? Wherever we are at in HB Ministries and whatever we are doing, whenever you are watching this, you can head over to heatherbaxter.com and get caught up with what we are currently doing. So currently in August 2020, we are studying the Book of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah is teaching us how to face crises, challenges, or setbacks, and how to be the leader God's created us to be in the midst of something that is distracting us or holding us back. God wants the best for us, and Nehemiah is teaching us his rhythm and his momentum on how he views something that is really tearing him down or is really making him get to the point where he wants to weep and cry. Now, for those that have watched me in the past, you know that every Friday I bring you a live video. So Thursday nights, I send you the notes, and those are going into your war binder. You're building up your own recipe binder, your own war binder with topics. So you're able to fight back whatever we need to learn in today's world, whether it has something to do with relationships, your faith, spiritual warfare, raising your children, dealing with things in your life emotionally or physically. I'm giving you tools that are all located in the truth, the Word of God. And so what I want to tell you is, if you did not view this past week's video, live video, I'm also going to put the link below. I talked to you about some really vulnerable, raw things in my life that had me in a position of where Nehemiah was in what we studied last week, which he found himself in a crisis and he wept. And then he got up off of his feet. He trusted God and trusted his character. And then he began to pray and fast, and then he made a plan. This whole week, we're going to study that plan. How do we move forward? But you cannot bypass the weeping and the grieving. That is very important for you physically and mentally. And so I want you to watch that video when I talk about a very serious hardship that I fell into with my daughter. And now, of course, there's other hardships I fell into. I fell into a hardship with my marriage, almost lost my marriage. I fell into a hardship with serious depression and shame in my life. All of those things you can find also in my published Run book, which is a book to help you run the race God's created you to be, no matter what religion background you came from, religious background or tradition. The whole idea is that you have a race to run. And God's created you to run specifically. And I'm going to teach you how to run out that relationship in every chapter in that book. But I also really get nitty gritty with my testimony. And so you can also follow me on that book if you want to read more. But I don't tend to go off into my testimony on every single video. It's something that you'll catch up as you watch all my previous videos and you get to know me. So anyway, I do want you, if you are jumping on right now for August, you're catching up, I want you to watch my live video because it'll really help you understand where we're going this whole second week of August. And so on your calendar at heatherbaxter.com, here's the calendar. Here we are today, and the verse I had on your calendar was Isaiah 57:11. Kind of kick off this week and kick off the thought process of what was going on in Nehemiah and what was going on with Nehemiah and his people. Because remember, Nehemiah is about rebuilding the walls now. Everything was broken down and destroyed, and it made Nehemiah weep. Now I think about our nation today, how everything is broken down and destroyed. And I also think of the verse that I gave you to study today, which was Isaiah 57:11. And this was really all about Israel committing adultery, okay? And I feel as a nation today, we are doing the same thing. This could be something you're actually doing with your family or with your marriage or with your children. When you're not putting God first, you're committing some sort of an adultery. God doesn't want us to put any idols above him. And so when you look at Isaiah 57:11, of course, everybody loves my old women's study Bible. She's a beauty. She's very marked up. Obviously, you can see that the book of Isaiah is something I really love because, yeah, the pages are all marked up. So Isaiah 57:11 tells us this. Let's read. It says, "And of whom have you been afraid or feared? That you have lied and not remembered me, nor taken it to your heart. It is not because I have held my peace from of old that you do not fear me. I will declare your righteousness and your works, for they will not profit you. When you cry out, let your collection of idols deliver you, but the wind will carry them all away. A breath will take them. And he who put his trust in me shall possess the land and shall inherit my holy mountain." Now, I often wonder why we are not possessing the land or living in the land of the free like God's created us to be. And I honestly believe if you look at Isaiah 57:11, you are seeing that Isaiah had a message to deliver during a difficult time. And who was he delivering it to? He was delivering it to the Israelites. And they were going through a difficult time, but what he was sharing is this difficult time, I hate to tell you all, but you're abandoning God. You are not fearing him. You are not living righteously the way he's created you to live. And then you wonder why you're in the situation you are in. I thought of our nation, possibly maybe your marriage right now, maybe your finances right now, but there's a reason. There's something here we can learn. God's holiness and righteousness can still, this is pretty profound, listen, God's holiness and righteousness can still dictate judgment. So we think, well, God is holy and he's righteous and he's good and he's full of peace and comfort. That doesn't mean that he can't dictate judgment. And that doesn't mean that he is going to allow things to come into our world to wake us up to his goodness. And I believe we are recognizing that today with the pandemic, with all of the social injustices that are going on. We have now election coming, and we are putting more of our faith and our necessities in people and in other things and not God. And I feel that God is responding and allowing the world to and allowing things in the world to happen. And so necessity of God's judgment and God's righteousness is huge to put us on path. He can allow all things to happen to work for his good. And so when I was thinking about this, I mean, God was reasoning with Israel. He was reasoning with all the Israelites. And I think right now is when I'm reading this verse, it's saying, well, why don't you longer fear me? Why aren't you holding up my righteousness? Why aren't you witnessing my truth? Why aren't you standing strong in the word? You know who I am. He's talking to you, Christian. He's talking to you who has experienced God in the past to stand up and bear witness. Maybe it's not, you're not bearing witness in the nation today and things that are going on. Maybe you're bearing witness for another relationship, another marriage, another friendship. Maybe you're bearing witness with your children. People need to see that. That is when they're going to recognize a real God at work. Not just somebody dictating his commands, but dictating how good he is if we obey. Let's not take him for granted and neglect his demands. And we think of the word demand and we think, oh, another rule to follow. Not necessarily. It's when we follow that rule, you will realize that in Isaiah 57, the verse that I was telling you here at the end, it says, but he who puts his trust in me shall possess the land and shall inherit my holy mountain. When he talks about possessing the land, that's a land flowing with milk and honey. That's nothing but something sweet and good for your life. But it's up to you. It's up to you to not reject what he's asked you to do. It's that easy. And so in today's verse, we're learning that some people are taking his righteousness and his judgments and everything that he's given us to live by for granted. And we're not going in the way. And then I wrote down here, do not deny others the opportunity to be inspired. So when you're sharing something of truth, don't be embarrassed that you're witnessing. It's your way of God using you to inspire somebody else. It's an opportunity. And that's exactly what Nehemiah did. That's exactly what we're going to study this whole week, is that he took the opportunity to plan and put together something that was going to bring everybody around, bring everybody on the same page. Number one, it was going to glorify God, but number two, it was going to rebuild everything. It was going to rebuild the walls of the city and bring revival, not only in the city for them to live in harmony and peace, but also spiritually, because he was going to bear witness of his God. And so that is really, really important. And if you've experienced God and experienced any of his blessings, then when you bear witness a little bit, God blesses your land. It just goes that way. It works in a cycle. So are you remembering him? Are you bearing witness? And are you struggling in that area? If so, we're going to learn that this whole week in Nehemiah. So again, watch session 2. Session 2 is going to be a lot about momentum and how to rely on God with a vision for your life. And Nehemiah teaches that. And one of the goals and the main principles that you're going to learn, which is right on your worksheet, right here. A goal is something I want that I can control. A desire is something I want that I cannot control. I can be diligent for what I can control. If you're experiencing a crumbling foundation, whether it's spiritual or physical, that you have to have the desire first to repair, whether it's you repairing yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, whether it's repairing a relationship, a marriage, whatever it is, our nation, that you first have to have the desire. Without the desire, there's no hope. God can feed and grow when you have a desire. That's why he believes in us writing dreams and visions. You may feel like you're stuck for a season, but that's okay, because he's going to work and help you gain momentum if you continue to live out and rely on him. And that is key. Even though you're going to have opposition, because we're going to learn that this whole week. In Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 9, we're going to talk all about Nehemiah's opposition. It's going to come from characters in your life, sometimes the closest people to you. And you have to learn how to respect that opposition, but keep moving forward to live out your vision. And then, of course, bring everybody else along on the vision God's created. It takes a while for people to catch up with your momentum, but you've got to hang on and you got to believe. And so we're going to learn all of that. We're also going to learn about how Nehemiah provided a strategy to do this. So we're going to learn a strategy for victory. And then on Friday, the live taping, I am going to do strategies that you should and could implement in your life to win in certain areas of your life. And I'm going to share some specific ones that has helped me push back and resist the enemy and win in the end. So I'm going to definitely be sharing those on Friday. But Nehemiah provided great strategies for his people, and you are going to learn that this whole week, and you are going to learn how to have momentum in everything that you put your mind and heart to. And so I hope that you're joining me. Don't feel fatigued. Do not feel frustrated. Do not feel failure today. Do not feel fear today, because that's going to be there. That's going to be there. Know that God has a plan and that you are seeking that promised land that Isaiah 57 verse 11 tells us in the end. So here is your video below for the whole week. I want you to watch that first. Also, here's your PDF form so you can be taking notes all week long, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye-bye.
Why don't we say that it's too late for us now? Why do we stay when I blame you for the things that weigh me down? 'Cause in the